It is my great pleasure to be here. I'm really honored and also humbled to be here. I'm honored because I've met, it's a great chance for me to meet many old friends and also to meet new friends. That is the great family in France of acupuncturists, so I'm very honored.
Je vous remercie d'être ici, c'est un grand honneur de rencontrer des anciennes connaissances de la médecine chinoise ici.
But I'm also very humbled because many of you have known my dad professionally much better than I. And so I'm really humbled to meet many of you who knows my father's work and have carried on in your own way the great work that you are doing. So I'm very humbled to be here as well.
Il est d'autant plus heureux de rencontrer que beaucoup ont travaillé donc professionnellement avec le docteur Leong ou à partir de ses travaux, et que beaucoup plus que lui-même ne l'a fait puisque lui ne fait pas de médecine chinoise, et donc il est honoré de vous rencontrer puisque vous avez continué son œuvre, donc c'est important pour lui.
I'm a medical scientist by training, but my interaction with my father, besides being his son, professionally, I have actually spent 1 year after high school, before immigration to Canada. I spent a whole year with him as his apprentice. So I did spend some time with my father and following him every day to follow his work and be his assistant in Hong Kong.
Donc sa formation à lui, à Peter, est une formation scientifique, mais il a eu évidemment la possibilité de côtoyer son père dans ses travaux, notamment à Hong Kong, où il a passé un an entier avec lui pour l'assister.
But because when we immigrated to Canada from Hong Kong in 1969, as many of you already know, the acupuncture in the Chinese medicine is not recognized as a legal profession in Canada, in North America. So I've chosen to do a Western scientific training, and I'm still doing research in Western medicine.
Comme vous le savez tous, à l'époque, donc en 1969, la famille Leong a quitté Hong Kong pour le Canada, mais à l'époque, la médecine chinoise, l'acupuncture n'était pas du tout connue ni reconnue dans ce pays. Et donc, Peter a choisi, puisqu'il était tout jeune à l'époque, de faire des études lui permettant d'avoir un métier reconnu, et il a fait des études scientifiques.
And so this always has been a great regret for me personally, that I have not followed my father's profession in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture, and perhaps do a combination of both Western and traditional Chinese medicine.
Et ça a toujours été finalement un regret pour lui de n'avoir pas eu cette occasion de suivre son père dans la formation, dans la pratique de la médecine traditionnelle chinoise.
But anyway, as I would explain, I've also, when I was doing training at the university, I've spent actually a few years working with my father on the translation of all these Chinese classics and so forth that form the basis of the acupuncture course and the diagnostic course for the North American College of Acupuncture.
Néanmoins, il a passé beaucoup de temps avec son père pendant qu'il était là-bas pour les traductions d'ouvrages classiques, les traductions de cours qui à l'époque étaient ceux du NACA, du North American College of Acupuncture en Oregon. Et donc il a baigné dedans par le biais des travaux de préparation et de traduction.
So as a result, I do know a little bit on the theory of Chinese medicine and the meridians and all those things because of this work with my father that I've helped translate.
Donc par ces traductions, il en connaît un petit peu quand même sur la médecine chinoise, ses théories générales.
So for today, I'd just like to talk about memories of my father from a son's perspective, because many of you know well his professional work, but I just want to say something from my perspective, how I see my father as a professional practitioner of Chinese medicine, and how I see him as a person.
Donc vous savez bien comment était la personne sur le plan professionnel, et d'autres en reparleront certainement, mais le but de Peter, c'est de parler de son père en tant que père et de parler de l'homme et de son histoire.
And this is the outline of my short presentation. I'll say a few words on our brief family history, and then I'll go into the roadmap for my father to Chinese medicine and acupuncture, how he comes about to do this, and before 1949. 1949, of course, is the time that the changeover in the government in China, so many people that are in Hong Kong would not be able to communicate freely into China because of the communist government at that time. So traffic is very difficult. So that is a dividing line, 1949. And so basically we would so his training in Chinese medicine is before up to 49 that I will talk about.
Donc il y a une grosse ligne de rupture en 1949 avec la révolution culturelle. Donc Peter va choisir de nous parler de l'histoire à partir de ce moment-là.
And the number 3, then I will go into the Hong Kong years, where my father spent a lot of time in Hong Kong, basically from 1950 to 1969. And the reason why I picked 69 is the year that we as a family immigrated to Canada, to Vancouver.
Donc la première étape a été l'épisode de Hong Kong où le Dr Lang a vécu pendant un bon moment, et c'est en 69 qu'il est passé de Hong Kong en Amérique du Nord.
And then followed by a few words on the North American years where we're in Canada, and my father also practiced in USA. So that would be from 1970 to his retirement from the United States in 1992.
Okay. Et donc, dans un premier temps, l'Amérique du Nord, ça a d'abord été les États-Unis, dans le nord des États-Unis, vers l'Oregon, où il est resté de 1970 à 92, et après il a pris sa retraite.
And I will conclude the presentation with a few words of my impression of my father as a family man.
Et il terminera sa présentation par quelques mots, présentant son père en tant que père de famille.
So just a few words on our family history. First, I would like to talk about ancestry. More than 15 generations of the Leung family, that is my family, has lived in the southern China. It is in the Guangdong province and in the Shunde district and Lintao village. So it's a small village, but it's the village that we have more than 15 generations of our family have stayed.
Donc le docteur Leong est né dans une famille issue qui a connu plus de 15 générations de médecins et qui a toujours résidé dans un petit village de la province de Canton.
So sometime during the mid-1920s, because of the political situation in China, because that would be after the Chinese Revolution, that would be during the years of the warlords in China. So in the mid-1920s, because of the unstable situations, my father's father, that is my grandfather, moved the family to Hong Kong.
Et donc au moment de la Révolution chinoise, il y a eu donc un premier grand mouvement qui a été le déplacement de Canton à Hong Kong.
And my father, his name is Leong Kok Yuen, which you've become very familiar with. This I have to explain. This is a Cantonese pronunciation. This is because we're in Hong Kong. Sisters are in Guangdong Canton at that time. So we use the dialect of Cantonese. So the pronunciation is Leong. Leong is Cantonese. Leong Kok Yuen. But in fact, nowadays, it's more common that everybody in China is used Mandarin as the national language. So in the national language, my father could be referred to as Liang, which is a slightly different variation from Leong, and Jie Xian, which is his Mandarin name. So sometimes if you read the current literature, you would read Liang Jie Xian, which is the Mandarin pronunciation of the same name, Leong Kok Yuen, which is in Cantonese.
Donc l'origine de la famille est de Canton. Donc le cantonais et le mandarin sont deux. Enfin, c'est le cantonais qui est supposé être un dialecte puisque le mandarin est la langue nationale. Et donc Leong Kok Yuen, c'est la façon de le prononcer en cantonais à l'origine et à Hong Kong également. Et la version mandarine, on dit chez nous en français, c'est Liang Chuesuan.
Yeah, so basically, I think to many overseas friends and colleagues, like in Europe, you've known my father as Leung Kok-yian, but for many of our own Chinese in the China mainland, like Professor Ho Ting or Professor Xia in Nanjing, they would refer him to Liang Chuesuan. They may not be familiar with the Cantonese pronunciation. The Chinese characters are exactly the same, of course.
Les caractères sont évidemment les mêmes, la personne aussi, simplement puisqu'il y a des invitations qui ont été faites en Chine au Dr Liang, et pour parler de lui, il est connu sous ce nom-là en mandarin.
So my father was born on May 24th, 1922. That was the lunar calendar, but he's a westernized, very open-minded person, so he's adapted the Georgian calendar, the Western calendar a long time ago, so he used May 24th. Otherwise, the lunar calendar would change every year, right? And interestingly, he's the number 11 of 16 siblings. My grandfather has 5 wives and 16 children. At that time, it is very fashionable for almost everyone in his generation to have more than one wife. So among the 5 wives, my father was born number 11 of 16. I mentioned this just so that you get a picture of how he grows up. He's in a big family. He's not a privileged kid like my son, who is one. So it is like among 16. So it is. Many of us are familiar with that. I think especially in France too, right? With big families.
Même si c'était donc une famille très traditionnelle à l'époque, donc il est né le 24 mai 1922. Mais d'une famille donc où à l'époque en Chine il était bien pour un homme d'avoir plusieurs épouses encore, et il était le 11e de 16 enfants de la même famille. C'est pour dire qu'il n'était pas dans une famille parce que c'était pas forcément des familles aisées comme chez nous, enfin chez nous ou dans d'autres pays. Les familles nombreuses, c'est pas forcément les familles aisées, et donc la vie n'a pas forcément été si facile au départ.
So my grandfather, that is my father's father, is called Liang Ridong. He actually passed away in 1949 that year, and he actually has been he's a traditional Chinese medicine doctor for over 40 years in his career. So he is a TCM doctor.
Donc le père du docteur Liang était Liang Ridong, et il est décédé en 1949. Et il a été praticien, comme c'est noté, pendant plus de 40 ans de sa vie. Donc c'était son métier déjà.
My father's mother, that's my grandmother, is the last one of the 5 wives.
Okay. Et donc ça, c'est sa grand-mère, c'était l'épouse qui a donné le Dr Liang.
And again, I mentioned that because being the children of the last wife is not very privileged. I mean, you don't have the hierarchy. So he wasn't born with a privileged class, with a hierarchy. So whatever my father's quote-unquote achievement, I think he has to work hard by himself.
C'était donc pas, oui, je crois, j'ai zappé le truc, je crois qu'il était la 5e de sa propre famille. Hein. Et donc c'était pour dire que tout ça, c'était pas une famille spécialement privilégiée, au contraire, et que son père, il a dit qu'il va falloir bosser dur si tu veux apprendre la médecine chinoise.
So this is the second part that I want to say is about my father's roadmap to TCM and acupuncture, how he comes about to be a Chinese medical doctor. The first point I want to mention is that because my grandfather, Liang Ridong, is a practitioner of TCM for 40 years, so this is already in his blood, my father's blood. So from the age of 9 onwards, as far as he could tell me, that he already is learning traditional Chinese medicine from his father, reciting all the classics, the ancient classics and so forth at the age of 9.
Donc le père du docteur Liang, son grand-père, a commencé à étudier de son père, donc de son arrière-grand-père, la médecine chinoise à l'âge de 9 ans, commençant à apprendre par cœur tous les classiques, etc., comme l'a fait plus tard le docteur Liang à son tour.
So, but for acupuncture, it's a different story. My grandfather was not an acupuncturist, so my father has to acquire that technique. According to his memoirs, he learned it from the acupuncture course offered by Dr. Chang Dan An, which belongs to the Changjiang School in Wuxi.
Was it your father who studied?
My father, yes.
Okay. Donc le père du docteur Leong, son grand-père, n'était pas spécialiste de l'acupuncture dans le domaine de la médecine chinoise. Cette branche, il l'a essentiellement étudiée avec la deuxième personne qui citait Chang Dan.
And then he also mentioned another acupuncturist course that he followed from Dr. Yang Yi-Ya, which is at Tianjin School of Acupuncture.
Il a ensuite étudié avec un deuxième professeur qui était Yang Yi-Ya.
And this he ordered in Hong Kong and also did the acupuncture course took the acupuncture course materials from Zhang Jianji, and also followed the in-person training course by Deng Kunming. It's interesting to note that only recently that I found out that Zhang Jianji and Deng Kunming are all students of Chang Dan, so I believe that Chang Dan must have the most influence on my father in terms of acupuncture.
Il a ensuite étudié à vie des études, donc avec deux autres enseignants, mais le point commun était que Peter s'est rendu compte que tous ces enseignants eux-mêmes avaient suivi la lignée de Chang Dan, donc de toute façon ça restait dans une tradition, l'étude qu'il a menée, même s'il a suivi plusieurs personnes, mais c'est de la même tradition.
In his memoirs, my father also mentioned an acupuncturist from Sichuan called Mr. Zhou. He doesn't remember his name, apparently, so his last name is Zhou, but he did pay homage to Mr. Zhou for teaching him some specific techniques in acupuncture.
Il a enfin étudié avec un monsieur Zhou, il n'a plus le nom du Sichuan, mais c'est pas celui qui a laissé le plus d'empreintes sur sa pratique ensuite de l'acupuncture.
So I want to talk then once I want to talk about his years in Hong Kong between 1950 to 69. It's interesting to note again from his memoirs that he got his first job as a TCM practitioner in a clinic in Hong Kong in 1941, which is at the age of 19 for him. So that he started out very young in 1941.
Donc, comme il avait commencé lui-même traditionnellement à étudier très tôt, très jeune, il a en fait commencé sa pratique de la médecine chinoise à Hong Kong en 1941 et il était âgé de 19 ans seulement quand il a commencé son activité.
However, this first appointment was interrupted after only 6 months. So after 6 months, because of the Second World War happenings, the Sino-Japanese War and also the Japanese occupation of Hong Kong in 1941 December for 3.5 years. So during that next period, he cannot have a chance to practice medicine.
Son activité a été rompue puisqu'il y a eu le début de la Seconde Guerre mondiale, il y a eu l'invasion donc de Hong Kong par les Japonais. Donc il y a une rupture peu de temps après ce début d'activité. Il n'a pas pu pratiquer pendant cette période.
But when my grandfather passed away in 1949, that's exactly when my father decided to come back to the practice of Chinese medicine in 1950. That's really as a result of my grandfather's passed away, and also his father came back to Hong Kong.
C'est surtout au décès de son père, du Dr. Leong, donc qui est en 1949, que ça l'a incité à se dire bon maintenant il faut reprendre le flambeau, il faut continuer.
So he opened the clinics in Hong Kong in 1950, and also he started teaching in 1951 to 53. He designed the first course of acupuncture course in a Chinese medicine college, because before then there's no acupuncture school. There is only Chinese medicine colleges. So he was the one that designed the first course of acupuncture and then taught it he was appointed by his Chinese TCM school to teach that acupuncture course.
Donc il a rouvert sa clinique en 1950 et de 51 à 53, il a été choisi pour enseigner un cours d'acupuncture à Hong Kong, sachant qu'à l'époque c'était une formation complète. Il n'existait que des formations générales de médecine chinoise et pas de formation spécifique à l'acupuncture. Donc il a lancé cette idée de faire une formation spécifique à l'acupuncture.
And because the acupuncture course turned out to be very successful and popular, so he was actually also co-appointed by different colleges, TCM colleges, to teach acupuncture courses.
Donc de 1952 à 64, il a été demandé, parce qu'il y a eu un grand succès à ses enseignements de l'acupuncture, à enseigner dans différents collèges. Il y en a eu 5 différents.
An important milestone for my father is, I guess, in the around 1954, when the famous TCM doctor in Hong Kong, Dr. Chen Chuan-Yen, he found a new specialized Chinese acupuncture college, and he asked my father to teach in the college. And after 1 year, he actually asked my father to direct that college. And so he did that from 1954 to 1969 for that many years. So he became the director of it's a specialized college for acupuncture.
Donc un médecin célèbre de Hong Kong, ouais, le Dr Chen, avait fondé ce collège spécialisé dans l'acupuncture. Il a demandé d'abord au Dr Leong d'y enseigner, puis d'en devenir le directeur, ce qu'il a fait pendant plusieurs années.
And from 1954 to 1969, that is before just when the time we immigrated to Canada, he also was elected president annually for the Chinese Acupuncture Association in Hong Kong.
Okay. Et donc de 54 à 69, il a cofondé l'association chinoise d'acupuncture à Hong Kong.
So this was perhaps the first picture that was taken, at least the picture that was taken in his first job, I think, when he was first appointed as a lecturer in an acupuncture college, and he was very young, probably 19 or so.
Ça, c'est la première photo professionnelle qu'on ait de lui alors qu'il était enseignant à ce collège d'acupuncture à Hong Kong.
And I just want to show you some old pictures that I found, 1953, this meeting of a Chinese Acupuncture Association in Hong Kong, where they could have a lunch meeting or dinner meeting, and they talk, just like what we do here, talk about acupuncture matters.
Dans les recherches photos qu'il a faites, il a trouvé cette photo de l'association chinoise d'acupuncture de Hong Kong, datant de 1953.
These are his first, the left-hand side is the first acupuncture clinic, and this picture was taken in 1954 when I was 4-year-old. I don't remember that, but I remember the clinic because I visited the clinics many times in Central District of Hong Kong. And then later on, he also opened up a new, the second clinic in Hong Kong on the North Point in Hong Kong. And I remember that very well because it's already in 1963. I was 13, so I know this very well. I spent a lot of time there, and I did my 1-year apprenticeship there as well.
Donc il a ouvert une nouvelle clinique à Hong Kong en 1954. Peter s'en rappelle bien puisqu'il avait 4 ans et il y a passé du temps. Il était étant petit. Puis plus tard, il a ouvert une deuxième clinique, toujours à Hong Kong. Et là, Peter était plus âgé. Donc, et c'est là où il a passé, il avait 13 ans par là, et c'est là où il a passé 1 an de sa vie en tant qu'assistant.
Please note my father's image. He really hasn't changed all these years. Right from the beginning, he's always like this, suit and tie, and right to his old age, he hasn't changed while the rest of us change a lot, you can see. So this is with some celebrities that you already know. The left-hand side is a famous artist in Hong Kong, Chan Ta-Chien.
Là, il est en photo avec donc un artiste célèbre de Hong Kong et puis avec un acteur américain dont j'ai bouffé le nom.
William Holden.
Hein?
William Holden.
William Holden, oui. Et vous noterez, disait Peter, qu'il n'a jamais changé de tenue de toute sa vie. Il a toujours été smart, quoi. Toujours été, voilà. Le visage n'a pas beaucoup changé et la tenue pas du tout.
And 1964, for a number of years, for about 5 years or so, every year in the summer, there would be an annual public health exhibition in Hong Kong. And my father would organize an acupuncture booth there, showing the people on the street what acupuncture is about, its outreach activities. And I remember that so well because every year, of course, I have to be a volunteer. So I was a volunteer there, I was manning the store, and so I have fond memory of this, these pictures. I was there every year, and it was a great occasion to see how my father would do these outreach activities to just an ordinary people walking and have no knowledge in this, and becomes stimulated by the exhibitions.
Donc il y avait chaque année à Hong Kong une grande exposition sur la santé annuelle, et donc c'était l'occasion de présenter l'acupuncture aux gens dans la rue pour montrer comment ça fonctionnait, parce que c'est pas forcément aussi courant qu'on l'imagine pour tout le monde. Et Peter s'en rappelle parfaitement bien parce qu'il était toujours engagé volontaire, plus ou moins de force si j'ai bien compris.
I think the little boy was either myself or my brother.
Oh yeah, il est avec son frère aussi là-bas de service.
Excellent. So, talking about outreach activities, my father was actually, I was very impressed as I'm growing up and start knowing him better, appreciating his work better. Then I know that he did a lot of international outreach activities while he was still in Hong Kong before 1969. And these are some of the examples.
Ok, ça c'est quelques exemples des activités internationales qu'il a eu alors qu'il était encore sur Hong Kong.
He was an honorary member of several national acupuncture associations, including Britain, USA, France, Germany, Japan, Argentina, New Zealand. I was involved in every one of them when he received the diplomas and so forth. So I witnessed all these changes.
Donc il a été désigné membre d'honoraire d'un grand nombre d'associations d'acupuncture de différents pays. Vous avez les pays en dessous.
In 1969, I remember him going to Kyoto, Japan, to visit and talk to the Pain Control Research Institute in Kyoto.
Il a donc en 68, il a été invité à parler à l'Institut de recherche sur le contrôle de la douleur à Kyoto, au Japon.
In 69, he visited the USA. He did not take me, but I remember that trip, his trip very well. International Pain Control Institute in Kansas City.
Donc, invitation 69 à Kansas City.
And also Columbia Institute of Chiropractic in New York. So this was just all happening before we as a family decided to move to Canada. And I think he did that for us. I mean, he has a very good, very busy practice in Hong Kong. He has no reason to leave. But this is 1969, and people beginning in Hong Kong, some people begin to have a little bit of concern about the return of, no, it's not so much that. I think there was a riot in Hong Kong in 1967. There was a pro-Chinese riot, so that sounded as a warning bell to many residents in Hong Kong. They were uncomfortable, so they want to leave. So I think because of that, and because of us, his children, education and so forth, so he decided to uproot his family and move to North America, moved to Vancouver in 1969.
Il était très bien à Hong Kong, l'enseignement, la pratique, tout se passait très bien. Simplement, d'une part, le fait d'avoir été invité dans ces différents pays pour enseigner, et de l'autre, le fait d'avoir vécu les émeutes qui ont commencé à se manifester à Hong Kong, parce qu'il commençait à y avoir les prémices de la réintroduction possible de Hong Kong dans le giron de la Chine populaire, et qui suscitait des craintes pour tous les traditionalistes, plus ses enfants, en mélangeant tout ça, il s'est dit qu'il allait peut-être bouger quand même.
Again, these are some American friends from the Pain Control Institute that visited us in 1965 and 67. I remember those very well. I remember these visitors. I was a translator. I'm always a translator, personal translator for my father. After I was 15-year-old, I was always the translator.
Ça, c'est donc d'autres invitations, et effectivement, il se rappelle bien de tous ces voyages, puisqu'il était enrôlé en tant que traducteur à partir de l'âge de 15 ans pour traduire son père dans les différentes invitations.
The next. Some more here. See that was the second one was me translating for the American visitors. Next one. Yes. And some Italian friends visited the clinic. The next slide.
Donc Donc ça, c'est des différentes personnes qui visitaient la clinique. Visiting the clinic of your father?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Ça, après, c'était aussi des personnes de l'étranger qui venaient rendre visite à sa clinique.
Yes. Next one. From Argentina. Is Dr.
Which one?
I don't know what happened. Oh, this is our good friend, General Lavilleri, 1962. I don't think I was there. I was only 12-year-old, so I don't remember him, but I think I these old pictures.
Lui, il se souvient pas d'être là, mais voilà, et donc il a rencontré Charles Lavilleri en 62 en France.
Next one.
Encore avec le Chinese Acupuncture College en 62.
Yeah, I think he received an honorary certificate. Next one. André Faubert. I remember André Faubert very, very well. Again, I spent many days with him, for the entire period with him, translating for him in Hong Kong. This picture was taken around 1966, I think.
Ces photos sont aussi de la période 66. Il se rappelle mieux d'André Faubert et qu'il a passé pas mal de jours que de Lavilleri.
Jean-Louis Blair, also I spent a lot of time translating for him in my father's clinic.
Il a aussi traduit pour Blard, Jean-Louis Blard, qui rendait visite avec nous.
I don't remember the person, but this is obviously the name is maybe familiar to you, but she is from Paris, Claire.
Voilà. Il ne se souvient pas trop bien de la personne non plus, mais enfin c'était une praticienne parisienne également.
And also my father visited in 68 to the Japan Acupuncture Associations. I remember the gentleman on the right-hand side, on the right-hand photo very, very well, Kun Kanichi. He actually visited us in Vancouver afterwards, so actually my father was very close to him at that time.
Donc ça c'était une visite à l'Institut d'Acupuncture, aux Instituts d'Acupuncture japonais, et ils sont restés amis, et il est ensuite allé le voir plusieurs fois à Vancouver, et Peter s'en rappelle très bien, il l'a vu plein de fois.
Now, so in 1969, December, we moved the family to Vancouver, and so what happened afterwards, we spent maybe 2 or 3 years, my father spent 2 or 3 years working in Vancouver. So this is for the Vancouver episodes. He practiced TCM and acupuncture in Vancouver under herbalist license, because as I mentioned, at that time, acupuncture and Chinese medicine is not legalized. So he could only get a herbalist license, as if he's selling herbs, but practicing acupuncture.
Donc quand il s'est installé, quand ils sont déplacés à Vancouver, il a travaillé de 70 à 73, et il a pratiqué donc l'acupuncture et la pharmacopée, enfin l'ensemble de la médecine chinoise, mais sous licence pharmacopée, sous licence d'utilisation des herbes médicinales, parce qu'il n'y avait pas de légalisation encore de l'acupuncture.
But he is still interested in teaching acupuncture, so he formed the North American College of Acupuncture in 71 and the association in 72. As I mentioned, I spent a lot of time working with him, translating together with another colleague, translating all the necessary course materials from Chinese into English.
Ah, this is you, this is why I could not understand some questions.
Blame it on the other person. I did say that there's another person.
Donc il a créé le North American College of Acupuncture en 71, et Peter donc a fait la traduction du chinois en anglais.
Next slide. So this is my father's Vancouver clinic during 1970 and 73. I remember, of course, this very, very well. I was going to university, but he set up this clinic. I just want to mention that this clinic became very successful, even though it's not legal. The waiting list is 2 years long. So to see him, you have to wait 2 years long, because he wants to see a limited number of patients every day.
Voilà, donc quand il a ouvert sa clinique à Vancouver, ça a eu beaucoup de succès, puisqu'il y avait, les rendez-vous étaient à 2 ans.
Next one. And of course, in Vancouver, he continues his outreach.
Sorry.
He continues his outreach activities. So from 90, he continued many invited lectures and demonstrations of the acupuncture to different health organizations in Vancouver, including the City of Vancouver Health Department, Vancouver General Hospital. So he was really trying to influence the mainstream Western medical professional association to accept acupuncture in Vancouver, in Canada.
Par toutes les interventions qu'il a faites en parallèle de son activité de soins, il a permis de participer à Vancouver à la, au développement et à la reconnaissance par la suite de l'acupuncture.
In 1972, he was invited to the city of Regina and the public health department again to demonstrate acupuncture actually on the mayor at that time in Regina. So again, this is the kind of outreach activities that he wanted to do in order to bring recognition to the public about acupuncture.
Donc ça, c'est la période qui allait vers une reconnaissance, puisqu'il était invité par les départements de santé, y compris au Saskatchewan, et puis il a soigné le maire aussi, symboliquement.
And he even met with the British Columbia Provincial Health Minister, Dr. Cook, Dennis Cook, who is the Minister of Health for our province, where Vancouver is, to talk about legalization of legitimization of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And in fact, Mr. Cook was very supportive, and he did a lot of work politically, but the bill did not pass. The law did not pass in Vancouver.
Donc il a rencontré le ministre de la Santé de la province de Colombie-Britannique, Dennis Cook, en 1972. Lui était très ouvert à une reconnaissance et une organisation de l'acupuncture, de la médecine chinoise, mais la loi n'est pas passée à ce moment-là encore.
So this is some open forum that are pictures in my album. Left-hand side was me with my father. You can see my father never changed, but I keep on changing. We were talking, I was his translator and so forth in the forum. Next one. 1972, we visit the Regina, the health department again. Left-hand side was me with the health officer, and we were translating and so forth.
Where was the guitar?
So let's remember that this is Mr. Cook, who is very supportive in BC, in our province. But eventually, despite his goodwill and despite my father's effort, the Canada at that time was not ready to legitimize acupuncture. So as a result, my father packed his bags and moved, because we don't want to continue operating an illegal clinic in Vancouver, even though it was very successful with a 2-year waiting list. And I was there at that night when we have announced it to the television. I was there right beside him, that we closed our doors voluntarily.
Malgré la bonne volonté de ce ministre et les compétences et le rapport qu'ils avaient avec le Dr Leong, le Canada n'était pas prêt encore à l'époque pour une légalisation, une reconnaissance de la médecine chinoise. Et donc, ne voulant pas, en dépit du succès de son activité professionnelle, puisqu'il y a 2 ans d'attente, ne voulant pas travailler dans l'illégalité et faire craindre à sa famille quelque chose, il a décidé de quitter temporairement Vancouver pour aller s'installer de l'autre côté de la frontière en Amérique du Nord.
Just a few words on the more outreach activities to the United States, San Francisco. You've heard this many times, so let's skip it. Again, so now he moved to USA. He stopped his practice. He closed his clinic in Vancouver. So from 1972, he got a special permit to practice acupuncture in a hospital in Seattle. But the condition was that he has to work under the supervision of an MD, of a medical doctor, Western medical doctor.
Donc la seule obligation du côté des États-Unis, donc il s'est installé à Seattle, il s'est installé donc dans l'Oregon, c'était simplement travailler sous supervision d'un médecin conventionnel.
Because in USA at that time, acupuncture, Chinese medicine are also not legal everywhere in the United States.
Oui, parce qu'aux États-Unis non plus, à l'époque, c'était pas encore, il n'y avait pas de légalisation de cette médecine de tolérance.
So I think my father did a lot of outreach activities in USA, talking, demonstrating to the California Medical Association, etc., etc. So finally, in 1973, the state of Oregon was the first state in the United States to legalize acupuncture in USA. And my father was given the #1 license in Oregon.
C'est ce qui fait que le Dr Leong est assez connu, c'est qu'effectivement, le premier État des États-Unis à reconnaître légalement l'acupuncture a été l'Oregon. Comment dire, Dr Leong, ayant initié cette reconnaissance, a eu la toute première licence d'acupuncture aux États-Unis.
And in 1974, other states began to recognize, to legalize TCM. My father received the Doctor of TCM designation in the state of Nevada, but he never practiced in Nevada.
Ok, il a eu aussi donc un titre de praticien de médecine chinoise lui permettant de travailler dans l'État du Nevada, mais il n'y a jamais été.
So, 1974 to 86, during the whole period, he moved his practice and as well as the American College of Acupuncture to Salem, Oregon.
Donc après, il est passé de Seattle à Salem, toujours en Oregon.
These are the Salem, Oregon clinics, the right from earlier on, and then the later stage is a bigger clinic, I guess.
Yeah.
The next one. Some more pictures from 1974 when we visited Nevada, where he received the Doctor of TCM. I was there with him, right beside him. Again, I changed my hairstyle and everything. He continued with the professional activities, the North American Acupuncture Association. He brought a delegation to Hong Kong in '75. And then later on, he was involved a lot with Michel Kahn and the others in the European University, and then the Acupuncture Roundtable in the European Parliament, and finally the Montreal Chinese Medical School in Quebec, Canada.
Donc, tout en étant toujours en Amérique du Nord, il a il a visité donc il a fait un retour sur Hong Kong. Et puis il y a eu la naissance, maintenant qui est plus près de chez nous, ça a été le début de notre histoire à nous, 77 à 92, donc du GERMT, groupe d'études et de recherche en médecine traditionnelle, et de l'Université européenne de médecine chinoise.
That's our delegation to go to Hong Kong. We're in 1975. I actually can recognize many of these foreign delegates that went with my father. I only recognize myself at the back there, the left-hand side at the top. This is the European Parliament Acupuncture Roundtable, where my father participated in 1980.
Ouais, donc ça c'est au Parlement européen, 81, on voit le sien.
Next one. And I think Michel Picard.
Avec Michel Picard, qui a créé l'Université européenne de médecine chinoise.
And actually, after he moved away from Hong Kong in 1969, he went back to Hong Kong probably only 2 times. This is the first time. This is the first time in 1987. No, this is the second time. I already mentioned the first time. This is the second time and probably his last time to go to Hong Kong. And he was well received by his former colleagues and so forth. And so I just put that in. It was his final visit to Hong Kong.
Il n'est pas retourné souvent sur Hong Kong depuis qu'il avait quitté. Il n'y est retourné que 2 fois, ça c'était la première, et donc il a été chaleureusement accueilli.
And of course, very closely working with Serge and Patrick and many others. But I apologize, I do not have personal pictures of many of you. But
this one did not change as well.
No change. Only better. Just a final part, I just want to throw in a few personal comments about my father as a family person. My father was married to my mother, Wai Yin in 1947. The left-hand side he was a young man, but they married in about the young age also, I think.
Wow. Donc il s'est marié à Wai Yin, la maman de Peter, donc en 1947. Donc c'est un petit retour arrière, là il avait parlé de la carrière professionnelle.
And again, some old family pictures, very old one.
Photos de famille.
The middle one is 1952 picture. I was 2 years old. Obviously, I was the boy that's standing. And again, I think the other one is my younger brother. So this is a very valuable picture for me. Yeah, and my mother and father in the Hong Kong clinic back in the 60s, on the right hand side. I find a couple pictures in my album, some relaxing moments. I think they're about 1960s. My father had a total of 4 children. My older sister, myself, my younger brother, and my younger sister. This is one of the few rare moments that he has relaxing and so
Oui,
forth.
le docteur Leong, sur le plan de la famille, donc n'est que 4 enfants, donc 2 fils et 2 filles.
This is 1960s. I want to mention this because this is the things that I really remember very, very well with my father, because he liked to organize monthly trips to climb the mountains, and not just for exercise, but for collecting herbal medicine. And moxa, moxa is one herbal medicine that we always pick from the wild, and also another medicine called white flower snake tongue herb by Fasen. I don't know how to explain it, but it is supposed to have anti-cancer properties and so forth. Every month we went to the mountains to pick them. So this is one of the trips that he organized with the members of his association, but we as children always tag along. So this is our fun part with our father, because other than that we don't really see him too much during the week. I mean, he has clinics, 2 clinics in the morning, another clinic in the afternoon, and then teaching obligations in the evening, like many of us doing now. But so family time, he really doesn't have the luxury to have that many. So these are the trips that really warms my heart, and I remember this very well, that we spend a lot of time and after climbing the mountains and picking herbs, and that's the quality time that we spend with the father.
Comme il passait son temps dans différentes cliniques du matin au soir, que le soir après il allait enseigner, il voyageait beaucoup, en fait il n'a pas eu beaucoup de vie de famille, et en fait cette photo lui rappelle des choses qui lui tiennent à cœur, parce que finalement parmi ces rares moments il y avait aussi le fait d'aller cueillir des plantes médicinales en famille dans la montagne.
Gain more herbs picking, and you can see the mountains could be quite steep, and we just went with it. Next one. Just to contrast, on the left-hand side, 1916, my father picking herbs. On the right side, in Vancouver, he loved picking vegetables. He really do. He would go to the farm and pick vegetables for all of us and also for friends. He just enjoyed doing that. So I guess some habits are hard to kick. So it's just like going out there and grabbing vegetables.
Nous connaissons le responsable de la déforestation mondiale. Deforestation, people...
Again, some contrasting picture with him and his wife, 1969, just before we left Hong Kong to Vancouver. And this is the right-hand side, 2007, which is their 60th wedding anniversary. So we have a big celebration with friends and family. So you could see my parents are a happy couple. They are a loving couple, which really are role models for all of us, for me and Lisa. And you can see them very happy. But I think the happiest moment, although he would not admit it, he would not say it verbally, is when my son, Aiden, was born. Aiden was born in 2011. And the reason I say that is because my father had lots of grandchildren, but there is only one son that carries one grandson that carries the family name, Leong. And as you know, this is an important thing for the Chinese, traditional Chinese people. Even though my father is very westernized and open, he never said that anything, but I know at the bottom of his heart that he's very pleased at his age of close to 90, that he still was given a grandson that carries the family name, that carries the tradition of 15 generations of Leong family.
Donc il l'a jamais vraiment dit, mais lui sait que c'est important pour lui, parce que c'est important pour les Chinois. Lorsque Aidan est né, en 2011, il était content parce que c'est le seul, il a eu beaucoup de petits-enfants, mais c'était des filles, et c'est le seul qui continue à porter le nom de Leong. Et il se dit que ça laissait une chance qu'il y ait une continuité au niveau du nom de famille et de la tradition.
Again, he spent his last years, he passed away in 2013, this is just 1 year before that. Spent quite happy occasions with our small family here, also with these many other children and grandchildren. The left-hand side, I remember, during his last 2 years actually, every morning I would have dim sum breakfast with him. He enjoys that, as many of you know, he enjoys having his dim sum and tea in the morning. I make sure that I have dim sum with him every day before I go to work. And I did that for 2 years, right up to the last month before he passed away. So I think I'm a very blessed person, and I think my father is all as well.
Les deux dernières années de sa vie, donc Peter a emmené son père tous les matins. Ils étaient dans une résidence pour personnes âgées pour aller déjeuner, petit déjeuner, des dim sum, du thé, et c'était quelque chose, c'était un temps important justement. Il est content d'avoir eu cette relation-là. Et petite précision pour le docteur Leong, c'était son traitement. Lui, il disait quand il allait manger, il choisissait bien ce qu'il mangeait et ça le rechargeait vraiment, quoi.
And so this is a few months, I think, before he passed away. He's still very wise, very alert, and he really never suffered. So he had a very good life. I think he was really cannot be mobile for one short month before he passed away. So I think he has a very good life, and I want you to share this with you.
Et il a finalement eu une belle vie, une bonne vie. Évidemment, à l'âge de 92 ans, il est parti avec une maladie, mais c'est pas la maladie qui l'a fait partir, c'était l'âge. C'est Chenchi qui était faible, mais sinon, il est resté sage jusqu'au bout. Et il voulait partager ça avec vous. Ça s'était bien passé.
Can go back. Before, on the right-hand side, my father is, in terms of his legacy, he has a lot of rare books from China, for Chinese medicine. So about 200 rare books. They're very validated as rare books for or semi-rare books for Chinese medicine. So I was talking to him before he passed away, what he would like to do, and he listened to my suggestion because I work at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. So my father agreed to donate all his rare books to the Asian Library because we believe that this should be made available to the next generations. These are instead of to any one person. So, and the books were donated a couple of years before he passed away, but not until this same year, just maybe 2 months after he passed away, that the library published an annotated bibliography of rare ancient TCM books in his name. And it contains all the details. Bibliography is annotated with all the details of the contents of and the history of each one of these 200 rare books. So the idea is that although this is in print, but the idea is that sometime in the future they'll digitalize it so that everybody in the world can access through the Asian Library in the University of British Columbia to take a look at these books.
Au fil de sa carrière, donc, le docteur Leong avait collecté des livres rares de médecine chinoise, quelques 200 livres qui représentent l'essence de la médecine chinoise. Et Peter lui avait suggéré sur la fin de sa vie, plutôt que de les transmettre juste à une personne, de les remettre à l'Université de Colombie-Britannique, qui a 2 mois après sa mort édité donc un compendium un petit peu de l'essentiel de ses livres. Et il pense que par l'avenir, ils seront digitalisés de façon à ce que tout le monde puisse y avoir accès.
The last slide. So this is the final slide, and my father did pass away in May 7, also in May 2013, so he was 91-year-old. I just want to conclude by giving my thought on what he was as a person. I think more than his contribution to the world of TCM and acupuncture, I think more importantly is his philosophy of life.
Voilà, ça c'est une photo donc quelques jours avant son décès. Il allait vers 92 ans. Et ce que dit Peter, c'est que ce qui lui semble le plus important, au-delà de ce qu'il a pu apporter au monde de la médecine chinoise, c'est sa philosophie de la vie.
So, on the right-hand side is a couplet, a Chinese couplet that my father wrote for himself, based on his name, the first 2 characters, Kok and Yuan. This couplet is a Chinese way of saying many things that you can express your feelings and so forth. In this couplet, my father expressed how he viewed life and how he thinks his philosophy is. And I'm not a scholar in Chinese language, so there could be different interpretations, but my own explanation based on his small writings along there is as follows.
Donc, le docteur Leong était un lettré, il aimait la poésie et c'est une façon traditionnelle pour les Chinois d'exprimer des choses profondes. Il a écrit un poème dont les deux premiers caractères commencent par son nom mais qui lui-même a une symbolique. Et il va nous traduire grossièrement, il dit lui, il n'est pas spécialiste de ce langage ancien qui peut être interprété de façon multiple, mais ce qu'il en comprend.
This was written by my father in his own handwriting. The first line says, to me, I've interpreted as if you realize your personality, if you align your personality that is close to the way of nature, to the truth, the true way of nature, then you will become harmonized with the bitter sweetness of life.
Je ne vais pas oser traduire.
Je le traduis dans mon texte.
Okay. Oh, Philippe will translate it after because, but okay.
That's good. So basically, I think this is really what my father believes in, and that's his philosophy. And at the end of his life, I can really tell from the perspective of a son that he lived by his word. He's not just saying this, as you could tell by a simple thing that he never changed his image.
Right.
That the same tie and suit and the same temperament. I've never seen him lost temper in any occasions. He really is trying to be peaceful in nature, and so I think he finally achieved crossing the sea of the ups and downs of the sea of life to the other side. So this is.
En gros, disons, même si ça traduit plus finement par la suite, l'idée c'était que notre vraie nature, c'est celle de la nature elle-même, on doit avoir la paix de la nature, et il dit, ce qui est très important pour lui, ce qu'il a réalisé, au vu de la vie de son père, c'est qu'effectivement, il incarnait ça. C'était pas seulement un poème, c'était pas seulement des mots, c'est qu'il a toujours vu avec un esprit en paix, prendre les choses avec du recul. Voilà, c'était...
So, to end, as my father's son, I'm greatly humbled to be here, and I'm very appreciative of the fact that 4 years after his passing away, that he's still being remembered, and I think he's loved by many, and so I'm very grateful. And as my father, if he were here, I'm sure he would say merci beaucoup, and I wish you everybody well and happiness. Thank you.